mocked up invoice. So I'm going to log in as the exception manager for this first part, and then we'll move on to the billing content manager and also admin views. So signing in as the exception manager brings us into the dashboard. And for those of you that haven't yet seen the new environment, you'll see one of the differences between the old version and this is that we've combined the recently edited, recently viewed and favorite items panes. Behaving as previously, though, the recently edited shows any content that's been edited by any contributor. Recently viewed and favorite items are still specific to the user activity that is logged in. On the right-hand side, we've got total digitized mail stats that can be seen by document type or by department and over a set period of days. So we can move that to the last 24 hours, 0 in by department, but by document type, we've got 19 billing documents that have come in over that time period. As we scroll down the dashboard, we also have the tasks pane, which would be used for any workflow tasks, and unrouted mail. So of course, specific to the exception manager, they can see any unrouted mail and if anything has been updated. Unread mail to the right. A pure exception manager role would not see any unread mail because they don't have access to content. They're not a content manager. However, if you do have a customer user who would be a combination of exception manager and content manager, so a recipient of mail, they may well also see their unread mail here. Coming further down, you can see the metrics that have been added specific to digital mailroom. So routing accuracy, and remember that the accuracy is slightly lower than it should be because we've obviously removed some of the recipient data to make sure that we've got content in the demo. And again, you can change that and it will change the stats. The metrics chart showing just the asset count. The exception manager doesn't need to see the other content, so they can just see the asset count. As well as the average time for delivery. Again, this can be changed to see the stats for the average time for delivery. All metrics that are useful to exception managers. You can also download these stats by clicking on the PDF option in the right-hand side, and that will download the stats to your download folder. So coming back up and across to the navigation bar, you can see we've got unrouted mail icon also in the navigation bar to allow the exception manager to not have to click through on the table here, but they can just click through each of the items, opening each one, seeing of course only the first image, which is the envelope, not seeing any other content to maintain security, where they can enter in the recipient department name should they wish. So they would enter billing department and the recipient name, who they want to send this to. So for example, I could choose Alex and I could update and send, and it will send this over to Alex and reroute it. They can, of course, edit any other information as well within here that they notice has been incorrectly added. They can also delete. So should this be junk mail or easily identifiable junk mail, they can delete that. Of course, if they do delete anything, it is all within the audit trail. And as you can see, we have reroute mail showing on the options at the top as well. So in terms of the exception manager role, that in essence is what they are doing. They're coming in, they can come to the navigation bar, work through their mail, reroute it, and then log out of InSight. So coming through to the billing manager, I will sign out and log back in as a billing content manager. So here we can see we've got total digitized mail showing. Again, you can see how much has come in the last few days. The content manager, you don't necessarily need to see all the other information. And you can see that the unrouted icon table within this pane has disappeared, and the icons disappeared as well here in the navigation bar for the billing manager. They don't need that. They have the mail search. They also have unread mail as a tab within the dashboard, so they can see all of the unread mail that's associated to that user. And then at the bottom, they have the total number of new assets that have been added, so they can see that information should they need it. If we come across to mail search, and they've got unread mail, They can, of course, they could do a search for anything that's received in the last 24 hours. So they've got my collections created for this, but over the last week, we've got 319 documents over the last week that have been coming, that are created, that are unread mail. So we can, of course, search through any of these. So if we type in billing, 315, we've got the total there. And if we take these off and still use billing, we've got 383, the total amount of documents that are waiting. They can, of course, use the full search. So, for example, if the customer is waiting for specific documents for a particular routing, or let's say from a particular company, they could use that particular company name to find information. We've got 148 results with Nancy. So we can see we've got information here. This is a billing department coming through. So salesperson is Nancy Freehaler. So we can find that. We could also obviously ship to, we've got a company BB. We could find that information and load that. So in the screen that the billing manager sees, they can obviously see the Mailroom metadata. They can edit the metadata, the custom metadata, as they could before. They can't edit the Mailroom metadata. Remember, that is only an exception manager role. So if we click on edit, you can see they've still only got access to the custom metadata to be able to edit any of that information that they may need to. But the actual Mailroom metadata is restricted, as we said, to the exception manager. You've obviously still, this is InSight, you've got the ML metadata, so they can still search by tags, and they can add tags and add comments as they could previously. You'll also see that within the Mailroom environment, we've got the ability for legal holds and to attach a retention rule. They can do that and click on legal hold. So as a content manager, if they want to hold a document in here, they can add that. They could add a description why. Click on legal hold and it will put that document under legal hold. Of course, to remove the document, again, you would unhold, working the same way as the lock and unlock. They could add a retention rule if they know what those rules are. They can search rules and they could add those. So we could search for a rule under invoice. There's no results. So we haven't got any rules to add. Of course, if they wanted retention rules to be added to this document, if they haven't been added already, then they would need to speak to an administrator to get those retention rules set up. But in terms of a billing content manager looking at the information they're coming in, they can find their unread mail and they can very easily work through those, looking at all of the unread mail. And as you can see, the navigation bar has all of the other tasks that you'd expect and you would normally see. So nothing different there to have to worry in terms of training. But they would come in and they could look at their unread mail here or use the search bar. Okay, so moving on to the administrator. So remember, as you can see, that neither the exception manager or the content manager have the ability to add content into InSight. So if you need to add content into InSight for a specific customer demo, you would log in under your own user. If you have admin capability, you will then see the add asset icon as you would normally to allow you to import data. One of the other areas you will see in here, I have exception manager set up. There is a retention icon. If you have that, if you are an admin user, you can see the retention. You can look at retention rules that have been created. You can search across various retention rules as well. We can and apply. So we can say we can select that item. We could attach a rule to that particular document if we wanted to see any expiration date. And there are retention events that can also be set up as well. As we noted in the early part of this presentation, please remember there is a video on the engineering page that talks about how to use retention. Please refer to that should you wish to demo that in more detail to your customer, as this is obviously focusing on digital mailroom. Okay, so in terms of the different users and different activities, we've now spoken through those. Have a great time demoing digital mailroom. Thank you.